Hi and happy Thursday. I am Courtney. I am the Director of Education at PAC, and I am so glad to have you. So we are now starting our summer semester, and it is titled, as you can see from the screen, it is titled 10-10-10, and that's basically a decision-making tool. But we'll get to that momentarily. Let me talk to you about PAC. Some of you might be new. I didn't look at who's in the room, but if you are new, and even if you're not new, here's a refresher. PAC exists to help women not only with an unexpected pregnancy, but also after the baby's born. So the clinical side of PAC does at no cost to clients. Tell your friends and family if they need us. But at no cost, we do pregnancy tests, ultrasounds if somebody qualifies, mentoring. We also do STI testing, but I think that's on hold right now because of COVID. I'll get back to you. And then on my side of the spectrum, we do parenting and educational classes so that people can earn items for their baby, including diapers, wipes, car seats. When the boutique is open, there's clothes, shoes, bottles, all that fun stuff. So that's what PAC does. Once again, we do it at no cost to anyone. We basically survive off of donors that love on us and love on you. So if you have any friends, family members, anybody that you know that's pregnant or, has a newborn and they're just really struggling, send them our way. Send them our way and we'll see what we can do. So the second thing I wanted to talk about are classes. So like I said, this is the summer semester. It started this week and it's called 10-10-10, which is a decision-making tool. Actually, let me show you why it's called 10-10-10. I don't know if anybody can see my video, but there's an actual book by Susie Welch called 10-10-10. Like I said, it is a decision-making tool. We'll talk about that for the rest of the semester. But today, let me get to my third point. My third point is maybe you want to know a little bit about me. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a little conceited of me. But usually my new students are like, who is this woman? Why is she here? And why is she talking to us every week? So as I stated earlier, I am Courtney. I'm the education director at PAC. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and I have a master's in education, and they're both from the University of West Georgia in Carrollton, Georgia. I have been in this role for about 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in December. And for those of you that have interacted with me in a while, I love you, I want to love on you, and I just want your lives to be better. For anybody that's new, I love you, I think you're worthy, I want to love on you, and I want your life to be better. I genuinely love what I do. Because I'm not in K through 12, I don't have to worry about national testing or state testing or we got to get these students up to this grade level or else, I don't have to worry about that. I get to worry about building relationships with you as well as increasing your knowledge on things related to parenting as well as not related to parenting. I believe wholeheartedly that the best parent is a well-rounded parent. And so if you are the best that you can be, then your kids have absolutely nothing to worry about. Okay? So you'll find that with our classes, it's not just, this is how I discipline my child without spanking, or, this is how I talk to my partner in a respectful and non-demeaning way. It's not just parenting and relationship. It's also, hey, I don't know what to do when I go on a job interview. I don't know what to put on a resume. I don't know how to budget. I don't even know what a budget is. There's always going to be education sprinkled in that helps you work on you as a person. So yeah, so that's a little bit about Pregnancy Aid Clinic. That's a little bit about what you'll expect from classes, and that's a little bit about me. And you will find I am an open book. So if you ever have any questions, ask me. I'll probably tell you. All right, so 10-10-10 is a little bit different than what we have been doing the last few months with having all of those community members come out and teach. So you're actually going to need pen and paper. You're going to need pen and paper. You're going to be doing a self-esteem inventory. You're going to do it today, and you're going to do it at the end of the semester to see if there are any differences. Don't worry, don't stress. This is not a test. You're not being graded on it. I don't need to see it. If you grab a newspaper or if you grab a bill and you write on the back of the bill, that's fine. I don't need to see it. This is for you. So hopefully that was enough time for you to get pen and paper, pencil and paper, crayon and paper, just something to write with. If you want to use the notepad in your phone, you can do that as well. There's 18 inquiries on here, and it's true false. So go ahead and write 1 through 18, or you can write them one at a time. I'm going to read them to you. You're welcome to go ahead if you'd like, but let's spend a few minutes answering some questions about you, about where you are right now. Don't think about how you used to be. Don't think about where you want to be. Think about you right now in this moment. We're going to ask questions about it, okay? So, question number 1, true or false? I can admit a mistake. True or false? Can you admit a mistake? Once again, no right or wrong answers. It's just however you are right now. Question number 2. I can reach out to people I don't know. Can you reach out to people that you don't know? Question number 3, true or false? I maintain my own values even when others don't approve of them. Question number 3, I maintain my own values even when others don't approve of them. Question 4, I can accept a compliment without feeling uncomfortable. Answer this one honestly, okay? If somebody says, oh, girl, you look nice today, can you accept that? Or are you like, oh, I need to wash my hair, oh, this whole thing? Can you accept a compliment without feeling uncomfortable? Question number 5, I can be myself around other people. True or false? I can be myself around other people. Question number 6, true or false? I can accept myself with all of my faults and my weaknesses. True or false? Can you accept yourself as a whole? Strengths and weaknesses, faults, weaknesses, good things, bad things. Can you accept yourself? Question 7, I can tell you my strengths. If I were to stop you on the street and be like, hey girl, what are your strengths? Can you just be like, this and this and this and this and this? Can you do that? True or false? Number 8, I can feel joy for someone else's achievements. True or false? Okay, we're about halfway there. We're about halfway there. Question 9. I do not compare myself with others. And remember, there's no judgment. Right or wrong, there's no right or wrong. This is just where you are right now. I do not compare myself with others. True or false? Question 10. Question 10. I have peace of mind. And for those not looking at the screen, there's 18 questions. So we're in the downhill. We're in the downhill. Question 10. I have peace of mind. Question 11. True or false? I believe I am unique. Question 11. I believe I am unique. Question 12. I can let my inner child out and play without worrying about what others will think. If you see a hopscotch on the ground, can you go and jump on it? Hop it. If you see somebody double dutch or jump roping, can you go over there and jump? Question 12. I can let my inner child out and play without worrying about what others will think. Question 13. I accept differences in others without judging them. Ooh. So if somebody walks in with a mullet and the front quarter is purple and the back quarter is blue, and then we got yellow and green, and it's a mullet, can you accept them without judging them? If somebody is wearing a red plaid shirt and their skirt is green and purple polka dots and they got their toes out without a pedicure, can you accept their differences without judging them? Y'all, I'm so silly. I know. Question 14. I affirm myself and others. If you're not sure about the word affirm, think of affirmations, positive speak. Can you speak positively about yourself and others? Question 15. I openly express my love for others. Question 15. I openly express my, hold on, something popped up. I openly express my love for others. True or false? Number 16. We're almost done, y'all. Almost done. And then we're going to get to our amazing speaker. I'm so excited. Question number 16. I love myself. True or false? True or false? 17. Ooh, I accept all of my feelings, not just the good ones, not just the rosy, warm ones, but the sad ones, the angry ones, the frustrated ones, the annoyed ones. Can you accept all of your feelings? And finally, question 18. I enjoy my own company. I am comfortable being alone. Question 18. I enjoy my own company. I am comfortable being alone. So, that wasn't too bad, right? That wasn't too bad. That was okay, right? I would like you to look over your true false answers. And I would like you to take note of whether you have more truths than falses or whether you have more falses than truths. Remember I said there's no right or wrong answers? That is correct. What this inventory is telling you, and mind you, this is not a scientific inventory. This is a generalization. But in general, the more truths that you have, the higher your self-esteem. The more truths that you have, the higher your self-esteem. So I wanted you to look at that. Like I said, we're going to be doing it again at the end of the semester to see if anything's changed. Okay? So next, I want to introduce you to An amazing human being. Some of you have already met her via Zoom. And actually, a few of you may have had an in-person class with her last year. I am introducing to you Miss Naya Abernathy. She's the founder and CEO of The Dignity Effect. And basically what it boils down to is that the dignity of a person is inherent, and that not only should the person realize that they have dignity, they should recognize the dignity in others, and that will actually help the world get along a little bit better, in my opinion. But Naya is the epitome of intelligent and beautiful, and oh my God, I can't even put into words the light that she radiates, the energy and optimism and motivation that she gives me and others on a daily basis. Because y'all, she's my friend. Okay, let me put it out there. She's my friend. Okay, because I surround myself with life-giving people, and Naya is a life giver. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling because I see her like, what is this girl talking about? Why is she like, Courtney just gone somewhere? I hear you, Naya. I hear you. So I am going to go ahead and Naya, do you want me to pull up your slides or you got it?
I'm good. I can share my screen.
Awesome. Well, let me stop share and I'm going to make you a co-host so that you can do what you need to do.
And I'm going to share, so I'm logged in twice. I'm going to share my screen on my other login.
Okay, so I need to make the other one the co-host?
Yeah.
Okay. No worries, y'all. We're going to make it work. We're going to make it work.
Right.
So I am going to go bye-bye. I'm going to turn my camera off and my mute on, but I am still here. If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, use the chat box. Once again, use the chat box for attendance. I love you. You're worthy, and I will see you at the end of class. Welcome to Miss Naya. Woohoo!
Thank you, Courtney. You are just so kind. It was funny because as you were saying all those really sweet things about me, I was thinking about one of your inventory questions about, do you get uncomfortable when people give you compliments? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to stand and just take it.
Yes, I love it. Take it. Take the compliments.
Hello. So my name is Naya Abernathy, as you said. I'm the founder of The Dignity Effect. And just before we dive in, I want to let you know that my kids are behind me. So if you hear a 3-year-old say something, or I've got my baby is hanging out in his co-sleeper, there's a show on for my 3-year-old to watch. If you hear any of that, it's just real life behind me. It's my kids. So, but I'm so excited to be here with y'all today, talking about the dignity effect in parenting. So the first thing that I would like to do is to kind of give you some definitions, level set, make sure we're on the same page. If he doesn't quiet down, I am going to go grab him though, so he might hang out with us for a little bit. So the dignity, so let me give you the definition of dignity. Dignity is the God-given intrinsic worth and value each person carries that cannot be taken away. There's nothing you do to earn it. You can't do anything for it to go away. It may be covered up. Maybe nobody has told you about your dignity. Maybe it's hard for you to believe that it's there. But that doesn't mean it's not there. It is. Give me just a moment. I'm going to go grab him. So that's your definition of dignity. So what is the dignity effect? The dignity effect is what happens when you realize your own dignity, and then you look up and start seeing the dignity in the people around you. Usually that happens first in your family, because typically, not always, but typically, people have most common or longest relationships within their families. And so there's a good opportunity for those relationships. Some of them can be pretty close. So your family, your friends, other loved ones, acquaintances, strangers, and really at the end of the long view of the dignity effect is that you could, even in your enemies, start to engage with them based on their dignity being primary. It doesn't mean that you agree with everything that they say. It doesn't mean that you agree with everything that they do or that you even like the person. But what it does mean is that no matter how you might feel about the individual, that you can honestly say, my desire is to honor their dignity as being the primary thing about them. And that's a process. So you're not going to hear a talk about dignity one day and then the next day say, I got it down. It took me years to even get to the place of putting words around this process and this reality. And I continue to learn what it looks like to really walk in it. So the dignity effect is something that when I first put the business together and started creating the thoughts and the content, I didn't realize until much later that it made sense because of my background that families would be where I would be encouraging dignity to be engaged first. Because if we can get families to engage in dignity first, that's where we all learn our habits of relating, is within the family context. That's where we learn we get into different dynamics and we take those dynamics out into our relationships in the world. And maybe you find out, well, that's the way that I'm responding doesn't work. I need to change that. Or I really do appreciate the fact that I respond or interact this way. Those things can often be traced back to things established within the family. And so it makes sense that the family would be the focus, because if our families start engaging consistently across the board in dignity first, that means that we can really parent a generation into a whole new way of being and relating to each other. So I really enjoy the topic of parenting. I'm not a perfect parent. No one is, but it's something that I think there can be a lot of tension and a lot of questions and a lot of assumptions around. And I really want to encourage people into an intentional way of parenting where you can honor your own dignity as well as the dignity of your partner and the dignity of your kids, and really set an example also as you're doing that for the people around you that you love. So we are going to hop in to the dignity effect in parenting. So this is not about a parenting style. There's lots of people, there's lots of ways to assess and to learn about parenting styles. This is not a style. You can have different kinds of styles of parenting amongst the group, and everybody still agrees that you want to have dignity be the basis of parenting. This is also not about getting parenting right. Like I said, there aren't any perfect parents. So if you're expecting me to give you some bullet points on how to be perfect, I'm sorry, that's not what this workshop is about. But I'm going to encourage you in the ways that will hopefully feel really good to you as you move through parenting and create dynamics with you and your kids that are really positive in my experience. This is more about asking, who do you want to be as a parent? When you think about parenting, and maybe you've never thought about this question, I think it's very normal for no one to ever really talk about this when you find out that you're pregnant, or when you start planning a family, or when you start thinking about or realizing that that you're going to have a child. I don't know how many people get asked that question. If you've been asked that question, I would love for you to say, somebody asked me what kind of parent I would like to be. You can throw that in the chat box if that's been your experience. But I think a lot of people are never encouraged and invited into exploring their answer to that question. And then, how do you want to relate to your kids? I'm a Black woman, and I think that especially in the Black community, how I want to relate to my kids is not a question anybody thinks about or cares about historically. I think that's changing. But especially my mom's generation, I don't think that was a question. How do I want to relate to my children? And we'll talk a little bit about what it could look like again as we move forward. So the first thing I want to do is talk about something that is a goal or a focus in parenting that most of us are probably pretty familiar with. And it's the goal of compliance. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how fear plays a part in that being the goal. So compliance is really about focusing on behavior and the outcome of that behavior. In compliance, you kind of have the viewpoint of, I say something and my child does it, period. There's no questions. There's, that mantra of children are to be seen and not heard. And that's kind of the stance we take. You might not say those words, but that is the way that we approach what parenting is in our family. A lot of times that tends to be the default. And I want to encourage us to really just be thoughtful about our parenting. I think if we're willing to be thoughtful about it, we can maybe create a different dynamic with our kids. Compliance says that I am the authority and my child is subservient. It means that there's nothing for me to learn from my child. There's nothing for me there's no way that there isn't, my child doesn't give me opportunity to grow. I'm always the teacher, which also puts a lot of pressure on you to always have the right answers, to always say the right thing. Again, about being right all the time. And that's a really heavy goal to carry around with you. I'm actually going to turn my video off for just a minute, but I'm still here. So the compliance goal is often driven by fear. And what I mean by that is there's a fear that says, how are things going to turn out if my children don't learn to comply? If my children don't learn if my children don't learn how to just do what they're supposed to and not ask questions, what's the other option for them? Are they going to make it? Are they going to be successful? Are they going to get good grades? Are they going to get good jobs? Are they going to be able to live a good life if they don't comply? And so let me parent perfectly to ensure that they comply. That's fear-driven, right? It doesn't really consider your child's full dignity. Remember, dignity is intrinsic, which means it is always there and it cannot be taken away. So even though your child is not a full adult, your child is a full person. And a lot of us we're not treated that way in childhood. We weren't honored as full people, even though we were just in the stage of being a child versus in the stage of being an adult. It doesn't trust your parental intuition. Listen, it's not an accident that you are the parent of the children that you're the parents of. That's not on accident. There's a reason why you are the parent of your children. And a lot of times it can feel like, why in the world? How did I get this child, this personality? But it's not on accident. And you have what your children need. You are who your children need. They don't need somebody else. If you have your child in your home, trust that you carry around what is needed for them to thrive. It's really about you being confident enough to access it, to get information and get wisdom from others, but then be able to make your own decisions about your kids. You know your kids better than anybody else does. They live with you, and they're your babies. And so there's something to that. That's not an accident. it also, when you talk about compliance and fear-driven parenting, it also doesn't encourage the naturally occurring curiosity that exists in children. It often shuts it down because curiosity can be inconvenient. It can be inconvenient that your kids want to stop and explore when you're out on a walk or trying to make it to the bus stop, or you're going to the grocery store and you've got to hurry up and get home, or you're tired. All of those things are real. And that doesn't mean that every time they ask a question, you have to have all the answers. But what it means is that you make space for their curiosity to exist, to be. You don't squash it, but you give it reasonable space to grow and to flourish. And just, you can throw in the chat box if you can. I know some of you have your kids kind of like I do in your hands and you're not able to type. But if you can, I would love to hear if anybody, when they were growing up, had their curiosity really encouraged by their parents, as opposed to having it shut down. Or if anybody felt like they were honored as being full people, even though they were just children. And if you witnessed your parents trusting their intuition with you versus just doing the same thing everybody else was doing. So I won't wait, but I want to throw that in there. And then I know Courtney's watching the chat box. If you all are able to respond, that would be great. If not, just think about it. Think about and reflect on your childhood about, whether or not those were your experiences.
I sure am watching the chat box. So y'all go ahead and, if you're comfortable, go ahead and put a response in there.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There is a different way that we can approach this. Fear and compliance is the easy default. You don't really have to think about it. It's what most of us have seen, and you could just do the default and do the same thing. But if we want something different, if we don't want children to feel like they are only allowed to be seen and never really heard, if we want to make sure that our children know how to use their voice as adults, we have to honor their voice when they're still children. And so if that's something that you want to do, let's talk about a different option and a different focus and goal of parenting. We're going to talk about hopeful parenting, and focusing on the heart. So the primary focus when we're talking about the hope and the heart with parenting is that we're not focused on behavior as the primary issue, I guess, between the child and the parent. The primary focus is the heart of the child. So who they are, how they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're learning about relationships and relating. Those are the things that become the primary focus versus just, did you do what I said or not? And this focus of the heart allows you to show up with your whole heart as well. And this, there's a typo. It should not say this compliance goal. It should say this parenting goal is driven by hope. And so when we are hopeful around our parenting instead of fearful, when we desire to trust and really lean into the reality that these are my children, this is my family, and I belong in this family, and so do they. And there's a reason why we've all been put together. And you want to trust that and lean into that and be hopeful about what your parenting can do for your children and what it can mean for them as adults, and what that can mean for you in the future with your child as your child becomes an adult. Then you can focus a lot more on the heart, and you don't have to focus on not only your child's behavior, but on you having this perfect parental behavior either. Now, what it doesn't mean is that you don't correct behavior. We want to make sure that we are paying attention to what our children are doing and not doing. It doesn't mean you ignore behavior. What it means is that you reframe the way that you approach behavior from punishment to discipline. So the root word of discipline is to disciple. And when you're discipling somebody, you're guiding them. You are encouraging them in a place of discovery. And though there might be consequences for what they have done or not done, it's not to break them. It's not to shut them down. It's actually to move them into a place of growth. And if that's what we want for our kids, if that becomes the focus, then we can look at their behavior in a way where it's an opportunity for us to really help them learn how to be who the best version of who they are, and how to relate really well into the world as they become adults and get older. It encourages a thriving of the relationship with your children and the person they currently are and who they're becoming. We all know that kids change a lot. The first year, your kid changes a lot. Between year one and when they go to school, they change a lot. Then they go to school, and then there's all these other changes. And the season of life feels different, but your kids go through a ton of changes between birth and 18. And at 18, the world says, okay, your kid is an adult. Congratulations. They can go out into the world and make their own decisions. That's not a light switch that you just flip on their 18th birthday. There's a preparation. There's a transition. There's something that you can create that really helps move them into that space in a way where I don't want to say it's not as hard, because raising teenagers is hard. I don't have a teenager, but my best friend has a teenager. And right around that puberty time, she was asking a lot of questions like, what is happening with my kids? So any of you who have teenagers, whether they're your own teenagers or maybe you work with teenagers or you have cousins or nieces or nephews that are teenagers, you may be able to relate to that reality, that they're constantly changing. And so when you're looking at the heart of your child and really wanting to, I don't want to say win their heart, it's not the right word. When you want to focus on their heart being kind of the center point of your parenting, this really encourages your relationship to move well into you parenting an adult. Because listen, your kids are only going to be kids for, we say 18 years, but really once they hit puberty, they start really coming out of the kid stage and they're really moving toward, they're in that young adult stage, right? So your kids are kids for a very short amount of time compared to the whole of their lives. They're going to be adults much longer. You are going to be the parent of an adult much longer than you're a parent of a child. And so this time feels very important. It feels very intense. They live with you, so it's all the time. But we have to remember that it's not just about getting to 18 where they can move out of the house. It's also about what is the relationship going to be like after they're 18? What is the relationship going to be like as they become confident in their adulthood and they start making decisions without you, decisions that you don't like, things that you might not agree with? And can your relationship evolve so that you can continue to have a relationship with your children as they move into a place of true independence as an adult? One of the things that I have started to challenge, even in some of the curriculum that I'm writing around this, is this comment of, or this belief, or maybe even a mantra that I know my parents still believes this is, I'm your parent, not your friend. So if you've heard that before, maybe you have said that to your child. But again, you are going to be the parent of an adult much longer than you're going to be the parent of a child. And so if there aren't elements of friendship in your parenting when they're children, then you're really going to end up having to press the reset button when they're adults and try and build a whole new relationship, which is really complicated because you have a history with them as being children. And that usually is a very difficult process to enter into. There's an opportunity for you to have a depth of relationship with your children because of how much you know and love them. But again, for that to happen and to happen with more expectancy, that friendship piece has to be woven into the relationship that you're building with them as a child. And we'll talk a little bit about what that might look like later.
We have an awesome comment. It reads, "My mom was open with us as children. She never wanted you to be afraid to talk or tell her anything. in my family, so much went on. She wanted to make sure we were able to be ourselves, as well as open up to her about things other children may feel uncomfortable talking to their parents about. That's so dope.
That's amazing. Oh, that is, listen, count your blessings. That is amazing to have a parent that really is doing what I'm talking about. It's not a new concept. It's just not, it hasn't been common or popular in parenting in general. And it's a totally different workshop to talk about that and kind of the either end of what parenting via fear could look like, and bringing it in the middle or taking it to a different spectrum, the spectrum of hope. That's a whole different workshop. But that is such a blessing to have a parent who encouraged you in who you were. Now, again, I know that your parent wasn't perfect, because none of us are perfect, but there's something really beautiful about that. So that as you transition into being an adult, things are different than for somebody who didn't have that experience. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And, hopefully some of the things that we talk about, the person who made that comment, thank you so much for sharing, it'll resonate with you. So entering into parenting and not feeling like you have to be the expert with your kids, as far as, yes, you know your kids very well, but you don't have to be the expert parent who always does the perfect thing, is really freeing for you to be able to go to your child and say, hey, listen, this thing that I said, or this thing that I did, or this thing that I didn't say, or this thing that I didn't do, that wasn't okay, or I wish I had done that different, and I want to apologize to you because I know that that affected you. You can show up for your children in ways that parents who are looking for compliance, parents who are relating with their kids out of fear, they can't show up like that, because they do have to be the model, and they have to be perfect, and the kids can't have opinion, and there's no learning from the children. That doesn't always look like your kids teaching you something, but in the relationship with your children, you learn things, and that you're open and willing for your kids to teach you, even if it's not on purpose, it's kind of on accident. So when you're parenting the heart, there's so much hope, there's so much grace, there's so much space for empathy, for vulnerability, for authenticity, not just for your child, but it also exists for you as well. And there's something about parenting where when we're not intentional, we can enter into it with this fear of, I need to be perfect because I'm raising a whole human, and that's really intimidating, which it can feel very intimidating. But I really want to encourage you all that there's a space that you can hold where you're looking to, where you are looking towards the heart, right? And not just focusing on behavior. So now, let's say you do this, say, okay, I'm going to make some changes and some shifts in my thinking, and I'm going to try some different things. I'm going to email Naya and ask her some questions on how I can do this with my kids in my situation, and then I'm going to try and do the things that you suggest. What can you expect? What is this going to look like? And I'm not the only resource. I'm definitely not the only person talking about this. And so what are some other resources for you to access after this class is over? So some of these things we've already talked about. It makes the relationship more expansive, right? When you're parenting from hope and really aiming your parenting at the heart of your children. There's space for mistakes from them and for you, for curiosity from both of you. You can be curious, more curious about parenting instead of kind of like afraid of it or intimidated by it. And then the growth that it encourages in you and in your kid is something that is very different than if you're parenting from compliance or from a fear focus. You might find that your kids become more confident in themselves because you're encouraging their confidence in your relationship, and that there might be more comfort with you, where, like the person who made the comment says, her parent always wanted to make sure that her kids could come to her and be honest and show up as their full selves. And then there's some more comfort in that relationship because there's more acceptance. This is really an opportunity for you to be led into your own heart work. And as you do that, and as you work on some of those things that maybe you're dealing with within your own heart and reflecting on your own experience and wanting to be a different person, a different parent, a different friend, you can, you start to do that work and your kids are watching you. So you're modeling for them what it looks like to be honest with yourself, to say, hey, I need to go through a process of change. I need to heal. There's some things that I need to address. And then it gives them the opportunity and an example of what it looks like to be free to do that, to be free to admit that I don't have everything right, to be free to admit that, yes, there are things that I need to work on, and then what that can look like, and to be okay with the process of change and healing. And then again, that foundation for transitioning into adulthood for your kids can be laid in a way that it's not going to be perfect. Parenting teenagers is rocky, and then learning what it looks like to let them go, and they're becoming adults, but then they're trying to figure out, so maybe they come back and forth to you. It's not perfect. It's not a 45-degree angle where you just go straight up and then everything is great, but the foundation can be solid. And they can know that at the end of the day, even if they make mistakes, even if they come home after trying some stuff and they're like, man, none of that works, and I just kind of need some respite, they know that they can come to you and find that. And that friendship that you have kind of woven within your parenting when they were children starts to really bear fruit and blossom as they become adults. So some resources, in addition to this presentation and the conversation that hopefully we'll have a little bit of here afterwards. Searchinstitute.org has a ton of resources for parents talking about some of these very things, maybe not using the same verbiage, but the same concept of really building up the assets that your kids have within them so that they can thrive as adults. The Cure in Parenting, that's a book. And then the True Face podcast, the True Face group wrote The Cure in Parenting. And if you can't do the book, if you don't have time, you don't have the funds, there's a podcast, which that's free. You can get it on Spotify. And the True Face podcast, if you're interested, you can email me or I can send the information to Courtney. It has in their back catalog, they went through the book on the podcast a couple years ago. And so you can listen to the podcast and really glean a lot from what they're saying from the book if you can't get it or you don't want to read it or don't have time. I don't have time to read anything right now. I'm a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. So reading, if it's not on an audiobook, I'm not going to be reading it. And then Brene Brown's book, if you don't know who Brene Brown is, she does some excellent work around vulnerability. But her book, Gifts of Imperfection and Parenting, is an amazing resource as well. And then a resource that I have, this was created within the Dignity Effect, this emotional legacy framework, really talks about some foundational pillars on how to build an emotional legacy within your family that you can be proud of. So, and these are basic things that over my years of working with families, I've just seen that a lot of families don't know how to do these things with proficiency. And these things, if we could get this stuff and feel comfortable around doing these 4 things, we can really see a change, I think, in dignity becoming the forefront and the primary focus of our family systems and dynamics. So quality communication, how we're talking also and listening to one another. Emotional fluency, knowing how you're feeling and how to name it and communicate it. Healthy boundaries, what does it look like for us to be in relationship with each other, what works and what doesn't work, and then reasonable expectations. Whatever I'm expecting of you, is it healthy, and is it something that I really should or could be expecting from you, that's going to allow you to thrive and me to thrive in our relationship as well. So Courtney, I know that you have some of this information that you're going to send out to them afterwards, but I wanted to make sure that I left space for any questions, any comments before we wrap up.
Yes, I will be sending this slide and the previous slide out. So guys, use the chat box or you can unmute yourselves to make comments or questions. Naya, thank you so much. Oh, here we go. We've got a comment. This class was really helpful. And I appreciate all of your wisdom anytime that we talk, whether it's class or not. Like, you were just a wise soul. Thank you so much for joining us again. You are so appreciated. Thank you to the babies for hanging out while mommy was working.
Yes. Well, Daddy just walked in, and I was like, "Thanks, baby." So he's been holding it
Babies,
down.
your turn. I love it. Well,
Holding
you
it
are
down.
so appreciated. I know the students, I'm
So,
hoping the students got something out of it. And of course, I'm going to uh,
mhm.
email out those last two slides for information. So once
Yeah,
again, thank you for loving on my students.
of
To my
course.
students and to the Abernathy family, I love you. You are worthy. And I'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.